Myra had never imagined she would leave her small village and move to a big city. The city was loud, busy, and full of people who moved fast. But Myra needed a new start. Her family had faced many hard times, and she wanted to find a job that could help her send money home and build a better life. She had spent weeks searching for work. Many places asked for experience she did not have, or they wanted workers who could come every day. Myra did not have her own home in the city, so she needed a place where she could live too. She felt tired and sometimes thought about giving up. Then, one afternoon, Myra walked into a big house on the edge of the city. It was an old, beautiful house with tall windows and a big garden. She was there to meet Mr. Lewis Hart, the man who owned the house. Mr. Hart was known as a very rich businessman, but also a very private person. No one saw him much, and many people thought he was cold. Myra was nervous. She had never worked in a big house before. But when Mr. Hart opened the door, he surprised her. He smiled gently and spoke kindly. "Hello, Myra. Please come in," he said. "I heard good things about you. We need someone who is careful, honest, and hard-working. Are you ready for this job?" Myra nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I will do my best." Mr. Hart showed her around the house. It was huge. There were many rooms, a big kitchen, a shiny dining room, a library full of books, and bedrooms with soft beds and thick curtains. There was also a small room for Myra, near the kitchen, with a window that looked out on the garden. "This will be your room," he said. "You can use the kitchen anytime. We have a list of chores for you, but don't worry, take your time. The house is old and needs care. You will start tomorrow." Myra thanked him and felt a small hope growing inside her. This could be the fresh start she needed. That night, she lay in her new bed, listening to the quiet sounds outside. The city felt far away here. She was safe. The next morning, Myra woke up early. She wanted to make a good impression. She washed her face, put on the simple clothes Mr. Hart had given her, and went to the kitchen. The kitchen was warm and smelled of fresh bread and coffee. Myra liked to cook, and she hoped to learn new recipes. She spent the morning cleaning the big house. She dusted the shelves, polished the furniture, and washed the floors. The work was hard, but Myra did not complain. She felt proud when the rooms looked clean and bright. But there was one thing that made Myra feel strange. The house had many small cameras fixed on the walls and corners. She had never seen so many cameras before. At first, she thought they were to keep the house safe. But sometimes, when she moved from room to room, she felt like she was being watched all the time. It made her nervous. She asked one of the gardeners about it during her lunch break. "Why are there so many cameras here?" she said. The gardener smiled. "Mr. Hart likes to keep an eye on everything. He trusts very few people. But don't worry, they are just for safety." Myra nodded but still felt uncomfortable. She tried not to think about the cameras and focused on her work. Days passed, and Myra learned more about the house and the small routines she needed to follow. She liked the quiet mornings when the sun shone through the big windows. She liked the way the garden smelled after rain. She also saw Mr. Hart a little more. He was not like the stories she heard. He was quiet but polite. He never asked for anything strange or made her feel uncomfortable. He was a man who liked order and hard work. Sometimes, Myra caught him reading a book in the library, or walking slowly by the garden. Once, he smiled at her when she handed him a cup of tea. That small smile made Myra feel a little braver. One evening, after a long day of cleaning, Myra was getting ready for bed. She went to the bathroom to wash up and change into her night clothes. She took a soft bathrobe from her closet, ready to relax. But as she stepped out of the bathroom, the bathrobe, which was tied loosely around her waist, slipped from her shoulders and fell to the floor. Myra quickly bent down to pick it up, her cheeks burning red. She hoped no one had seen. What she did not know was that a small security camera was fixed right outside the bathroom door. The camera had been repaired recently, but no one told Myra it was working again. She hurried back to her room, heart pounding. She felt a mix of shame and fear. Would Mr. Hart see? Would he think badly of her? She tried to calm herself. After all, it was an accident. She was careful and respectful. But the fear stayed with her. That night, Myra lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought about her family far away, about the chance she had been given, and about the cameras watching her. She whispered to herself, "Please, let this be okay. Let me keep this job." As the moonlight shone softly through the window, Myra finally closed her eyes, hoping for a better tomorrow. The next morning, the sky was heavy with dark clouds. Myra woke up to the sound of rain tapping softly on the window. The storm had brought a cool breeze that made the big house feel a little colder than usual. She rubbed her eyes and looked at the clock. It was already past 7. She was late. Myra's heart beat faster. She knew Mr. Hart expected the house to be clean and ready early in the day. She didn't want to disappoint him, not after the kindness he had shown. She quickly dressed and went to the kitchen. The lights were flickering. The storm had caused a power outage, and the whole house was darker than normal. Myra found the flashlight in the drawer and turned it on. It was not much, but it helped her see. "Don't worry," the gardener said when he saw her struggling. "The power will come back soon." Myra nodded but felt uneasy. It was hard to work without light. Her first task was laundry. There was a pile of clothes that needed washing and folding. She carried the basket carefully to the laundry room at the back of the house. The laundry room was small but warm. Myra liked the smell of clean clothes and soap. She started sorting the clothes, then filled the washing machine with water. While the machine was running, Myra decided to take a quick shower before starting the rest of her chores. She needed to feel fresh to work well. She stepped into the guest bathroom. It was simple but clean, with white tiles and soft towels. She wrapped a thick bathrobe around her body, tying it loosely at the waist. But as Myra moved to pick up a towel from the rack, the tie on the bathrobe suddenly came undone. The robe slipped from her shoulders and fell to the floor. Myra gasped softly and bent down quickly to grab it. She hoped no one had seen. But unknown to her, the small security camera outside the bathroom was working. The camera had been fixed the day before, and this was its first day recording. As Myra straightened the bathrobe and stepped out of the bathroom, the camera caught everything the moment the robe fell and her hurried reaction. Myra felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She had no idea what to do. She walked back to her room, clutching the bathrobe tightly. Her cheeks burned with shame. She had never felt so exposed before. What if Mr. Hart saw the video? What if he thought she was careless or disrespectful? For the rest of the day, Myra moved quietly around the house. She cleaned the living room, dusted the shelves, and swept the floors. But her mind was far away. She kept thinking about the camera and the accident. She tried to stay calm. It was just an accident, she told herself. I was careful. Nothing bad happened. But the fear did not leave her. At lunchtime, she sat alone in the small kitchen, eating the food she had prepared. She watched the rain through the window and wondered if she should say something to Mr. Hart. She thought about leaving the job. Maybe it was too much for her. But then she remembered her family waiting for her support. She remembered the promise she had made to herself to be strong, to work hard, and to never give up. Later in the afternoon, there was a soft knock on her door. "Myra, can you come to the office?" the voice from the house intercom said. Myra's heart jumped. She swallowed hard and took a deep breath. She wasn't sure what Mr. Hart wanted. She cleaned her hands on her apron and walked slowly down the long hallway. Her footsteps echoed softly on the marble floor. When she reached the office, she knocked gently. "Come in," said Mr. Hart. She opened the door and saw him sitting behind a large wooden desk. He looked at her with calm eyes. "Please, sit down," he said. Myra sat on the chair, feeling nervous. Mr. Hart did not look angry or upset. Instead, he smiled softly. "I want to talk to you about something," he began. Myra's heart beat faster. "Yesterday, the security company fixed a camera outside the guest bathroom," he continued. "I checked the footage today, and I saw that something fell." Myra looked down, feeling embarrassed. "But I want you to know I am not upset," Mr. Hart said kindly. "I understand that accidents happen. I trust you, Myra." Myra blinked, surprised by his words. "I also want to apologize," he said. "That camera should have been turned off while you are here. It was wrong to record without telling you." Myra felt tears in her eyes. She looked up at him and smiled weakly. "Thank you, sir," she said quietly. Mr. Hart nodded. "I have already asked the security company to remove the camera. From now on, your privacy will be respected." Myra's heart felt lighter. She wanted to thank him more, but she was still a little shy. Mr. Hart stood up and walked to the window. "If you ever feel uncomfortable, please tell me. This is your home too." That evening, Myra returned to her room, feeling a strange mix of relief and gratitude. She looked at the bathrobe folded neatly on her chair. The accident was over, but something new had begun. She felt that, despite the cameras and the big house, she could trust Mr. Hart. And maybe, just maybe, this place could become a real home. The morning sun poured softly through the tall windows of the mansion. Myra woke up feeling hopeful. The words Mr. Hart had spoken yesterday stayed in her mind like a warm light. She felt a little less afraid now, like she belonged in the big house. She dressed carefully, tying her hair back and putting on the clean clothes she wore every day. Her steps were lighter as she walked through the quiet halls, ready to begin her work. As usual, Myra started in the kitchen. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. She smiled as she prepared breakfast. Small moments like these made her feel connected to the house. But then, just as she was wiping the counter, the voice came through the intercom again. "Myra, Mr. Hart would like to see you in his office," the voice said. Myra's heart skipped a beat. She wiped her hands on her apron, trying to stay calm. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "I can do this." She walked slowly down the long hallway. The walls were lined with painting scenes of mountains, rivers, and quiet villages. Myra loved looking at them. They reminded her of her own home, far away from the city noise. When she reached the office door, she paused and took a deep breath. She knocked gently. "Come in," Mr. Hart's voice invited. Myra opened the door and stepped inside. The room was large and filled with books. Mr. Hart was sitting behind a wide desk, looking calm but serious. "Please, sit down," he said kindly. Myra sat on the chair, hands folded nervously in her lap. Mr. Hart leaned forward a little and smiled. "I want to thank you, Myra," he began, "for being honest and hard-working." Myra blinked in surprise. She did not expect to hear this. "I also want to talk about the other day," he continued, his eyes kind. "When the bathrobe fell." Myra's cheeks turned red. "I saw it on the camera," he said gently. "But I want you to know I understand. Everyone makes mistakes." Myra looked down, feeling embarrassed. "But more than that," Mr. Hart said, "I realized something important." She looked up, curious. I realized that I have been too careful with my privacy and security. I never thought about how it might make others feel. Myra nodded slowly. I want this house to be a place where you feel safe and respected, he said. Not just a job, but a home. Myra felt her throat tighten. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. She said quietly, "Thank you, sir. I appreciate that." Mr. Hart smiled again. "Good," he said. "Now, tell me, how are you finding the work so far?" Myra thought for a moment. "It is hard sometimes," she admitted, "but I am learning. I want to do well." "That is all I ask," Mr. Hart said. "If you need help or have questions, please ask." Myra felt more confident than before. After a few moments, Mr. Hart stood up. "Thank you for coming," he said. "You may go now." Myra stood and smiled. As she left the room, she felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had lifted from her shoulders. Back in the kitchen, Myra worked with a new energy. She hummed quietly as she cooked and cleaned. The house no longer felt cold or strange. It was beginning to feel like a place where she belonged. Later that afternoon, Myra was outside in the garden, watering the plants. The rain had stopped, and the sun peeked through the clouds. Mr. Hart came out onto the porch and watched her for a moment. "Would you like some tea?" he asked. Myra smiled. "Yes, thank you." He went inside and returned with 2 cups on a tray. They sat together on the porch, the sun warming their faces. For the first time, Myra felt that she could talk with Mr. Hart, not just as an employer but as a person. They spoke about small things: the weather, the garden, favorite foods. Mr. Hart told her stories about his childhood, growing up in a small town not very different from Myra's village. Myra laughed when he spoke about how he used to climb trees and fall off sometimes. She shared stories of her own childhood: the festivals, the rivers, the big mango tree near her house. The more they talked, the more Myra felt a gentle friendship growing between them. That evening, as Myra prepared for bed, she found a small note on her pillow. It was written in neat handwriting. "Myra, thank you for your hard work today. I appreciate your honesty and kindness. You are more than just an employee here, you are important." Louis. Myra held the note close to her heart. It was the first time someone had made her feel truly seen. She whispered softly, "Maybe this new life will be okay." And with that thought, Myra closed her eyes and fell asleep, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. The days after their talk passed quietly, but for Myra, they felt different. The heavy weight of worry that had sat on her chest slowly lifted, replaced by a warm feeling of trust. The house still felt big, but it was no longer cold. She could see the soft light in Mr. Hart's eyes when they met in the hallway. It was as if something had changed between them: not just employer and employee, but 2 people beginning to understand each other. One morning, Myra was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast, when the doorbell rang. The gardener opened the door and called out, "There's a visitor for Mr. Hart." Myra's hands paused on the cutting board. Visitors were rare here. Mr. Hart was a private man, and he did not often have guests. A few minutes later, Mr. Hart came into the kitchen. His face was serious but calm. "Myra, would you please come to the office?" he said. Myra nodded, feeling curious and a little nervous. She followed him down the hallway, stepping softly on the polished floor. When they reached the office, Mr. Hart closed the door gently behind them. "Please, sit," he said. Myra sat, her hands folded in her lap. Mr. Hart stood by the window and looked out for a moment. Then he turned back to her. "I want to thank you again for your honesty and hard work," he began. Myra felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. "But there is something else," he continued. "I've been thinking about the camera accident." That moment when your bathrobe fell. Myra looked down, feeling the old embarrassment rise. I want you to know that I did not watch the footage to judge you, Mr. Hart said kindly. I only saw it because I checked the cameras to make sure everything is safe. Myra looked up, surprised. I was worried that you might think badly of me. Mr. Hart smiled gently. No. It was a simple accident. Nothing more. Then, he walked to his desk and picked up a small envelope. This is for you. Myra took the envelope carefully. The handwriting was neat and clear. She opened it and pulled out a letter. The letter read, Dear Myra, I want you to know that I respect you. What happened was nothing but a mistake, and it changed the way I think about this house and about the people who live and work here. You work hard every day, and you do it with kindness and honesty. That matters more than any small accident. From today, I have asked the security company to remove the cameras from places where you might feel uncomfortable. You deserve privacy and respect. Please feel free to tell me if anything ever bothers you. I want this house to be a home for you, not just a place of work. Thank you, Louis. Myra's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Mr. Hart and found his face calm and sincere. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't have to say anything, he replied. Just know that you are valued here. Myra nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her heart. That day, something changed in Myra. She felt lighter, freer. The fear she had carried like a shadow began to disappear. When she went back to work, she noticed small changes around the house. Some cameras had been removed, and others were turned away from private spaces. It was a simple thing, but it meant a lot to her. For the first time in a long while, Myra felt safe. Over the next weeks, Myra and Mr. Hart's relationship grew quietly. He began to notice the little things: how carefully she arranged the flowers on the table, the way she smiled when she talked about her family. One afternoon, Myra was watering the roses in the garden when Mr. Hart approached. Those roses remind me of my mother's garden, he said softly. Myra smiled. My mother loves flowers too. She says they bring hope. Mr. Hart looked thoughtful. I think you bring hope here too. Myra felt her heart skip. She looked down quickly. You are kind, she said. And you are strong, he replied. It was a simple exchange, but it spoke volumes. That evening, Myra sat by her window, watching the stars appear in the sky. She held the letter from Mr. Hart in her hands. She thought about the long road she had traveled from her small village to this big house, from fear to hope. She whispered softly, maybe this is the place I was meant to find. And for the first time in a long time, Myra dreamed of the future, a future filled with respect, trust, and a new kind of family. The days became warmer as summer approached. The garden around the big house bloomed with colorful flowers, reds, yellows, and pinks shining under the bright sun. Myra loved spending time outside, watering the plants and watching the bees buzz happily from flower to flower. One morning, while she was arranging fresh flowers in the living room, Mr. Hart entered quietly. Good morning, Myra, he said with a small smile. Good morning, sir, Myra replied, trying to hide her surprise. Mr. Hart rarely spoke much outside of work. He looked around the room, admiring the flowers. You have a good eye for beauty, he said. The house feels brighter because of your work. Myra's cheeks warmed. Thank you, sir. I try my best. Mr. Hart looked thoughtful for a moment. I want to invite you to a small celebration tomorrow, he said. Nothing big, just a few close friends and family. It will be a chance to relax and enjoy the garden. Myra was surprised. She had never been to a party before, especially not one in such a beautiful place. I would be happy to come, she said softly. Good, Mr. Hart replied. Please rest well tonight. That night, Myra lay awake thinking about the party. She wondered what she should wear or what she should say. She felt nervous but also excited. For the first time, she thought about being part of a community, not just a worker, but someone invited. The next day, Myra woke early to prepare. She cleaned the house carefully, making sure everything looked perfect. She helped the gardener arrange tables outside under the big oak tree. In the afternoon, the guests arrived. There were a few family members, old friends of Mr. Hart, and some of the house staff. The air was filled with laughter and the soft sound of music. Myra watched quietly from the side, feeling shy. But Mr. Hart came over and smiled at her. "Come, Myra. Join us," he said gently. She nodded and stepped into the circle of people. The party was simple but warm. People shared stories, sang songs, and enjoyed the food. Myra listened and smiled as she heard about Mr. Hart's childhood, his travels, and the people he cared about. One of the guests, an elderly woman with kind eyes, came up to Myra. "You have a gentle spirit," she said. "It is good to see you here." Myra felt her heart lift. "Thank you," she said softly. Later, Mr. Hart came to her again. "I wanted to thank you for all your hard work," he said. "You have brought a new light to this house." Myra looked at him, feeling a warm glow inside. "Thank you, sir. I am happy to be here." Mr. Hart nodded. "You are not just a worker here. You are part of this family." Myra smiled. It was the first time anyone had said that to her. She felt a deep happiness. As the sun began to set, the guests slowly left, and the house grew quiet again. Myra sat by the window, watching the sky turn pink and gold. She thought about the day, the laughter, the kind words, and the feeling of belonging. She knew that life was not always easy, but moments like this made it worthwhile. She whispered softly, "Maybe this is just the beginning." The next morning, Myra woke feeling stronger and more hopeful than ever. She had a purpose now, and a place where she was accepted. She looked forward to the days ahead, knowing that no matter what happened, she had found a new family and a new home. And for the first time, Myra believed that anything was possible. The days after the small celebration were peaceful. Myra felt lighter, happier. The house no longer seemed so big or lonely. There was laughter in the halls, and even the flowers in the garden seemed brighter. One morning, Myra was organizing the guest room when she heard soft footsteps behind her. She turned to see Mr. Hart standing in the doorway, holding a small box. "Myra," he said, his voice gentle. "I want to give you something." Myra blinked, surprised. "It is a small gift, to thank you for all your hard work," he continued. "Please accept it." She hesitated for a moment but took the box. It was wrapped simply but carefully. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. Mr. Hart smiled and nodded. Later, Myra opened the box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small, shining pendant shaped like a star. She held it carefully in her hands, feeling its cool weight. The star reminded her of the nights she had spent looking at the sky back home, dreaming of a better life. Myra put the necklace on, fastening it around her neck. It felt like a promise, a symbol of hope and a new start. That afternoon, Myra was working in the kitchen when Mr. Hart came in with a letter. "This is for you," he said, handing it to her. Myra took the letter and opened it. Inside was an invitation. It read, "Dear Myra, I would like to invite you to attend a training course for house managers. It will help you learn new skills and grow in your work. The course begins next week. I hope you will accept. Sincerely, Louis Hart." Myra's heart raced. This was more than she had ever hoped for. A chance to learn and improve. She looked up at Mr. Hart with wide eyes. "Thank you, sir. I would be honored." He smiled. "I know you will do well." The week before the course was busy. Myra prepared the house, helped the gardener, and continued to learn every day. She felt excited and a little nervous about the new opportunity. On the first day of the course, she dressed carefully, wearing her best clothes and the silver necklace. At the training center, Myra met others who worked in big houses like hers. They shared stories and learned together. The classes taught her about organizing, managing staff, and handling responsibilities with confidence. Myra listened closely and asked many questions. She wanted to learn everything. At the end of the week, Myra returned home feeling proud. Mr. Hart was waiting for her at the door. "How was the course?" he asked. "It was wonderful," Myra said with a bright smile. "I learned so much. Thank you for giving me this chance." Mr. Hart nodded. "You earned it. I believe in your potential." That evening, Myra sat by the window, looking at the stars. She touched the silver necklace and thought about the journey she had made. From the day the bathrobe fell, to now she had grown stronger, braver. She whispered, "This is only the beginning." The weeks passed, and Myra's confidence grew. She took on new tasks at the house, organizing events and helping to manage the staff. Her relationship with Mr. Hart became warmer. They shared more moments of kindness and understanding. One afternoon, while working in the garden, Mr. Hart stopped beside her. "You have changed this house, Myra," he said softly. "Not just in how it looks, but in the heart of it." Myra smiled, feeling tears welling up. "Thank you," she said, "for believing in me." He looked at her kindly. "You deserve every good thing." Myra's life was changing in ways she never dreamed possible. She had found respect, trust, and a new family. And as she looked to the future, she knew that no matter what came, she would face it with courage and hope. The days grew shorter as autumn approached, and the air turned crisp with the promise of change. Myra stood by the window, watching golden leaves dance in the gentle breeze. The big house felt warmer now, filled with laughter, kindness, and the quiet strength of new beginnings. It had been months since the bathrobe had accidentally fallen on the security camera. That small mistake had led to a journey Myra never imagined possible. She had grown, not just in her work, but in her heart. One morning, as Myra was arranging fresh flowers in the living room, Mr. Hart came in carrying a small package wrapped in brown paper. "Myra," he said, smiling warmly, "I have something for you." Myra looked up, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. He handed her the package. "Open it when you have a moment." She nodded and went to her room to unwrap it carefully. Inside was a beautifully bound book, with her name written in gold letters on the cover. She opened it and found pages filled with notes and advice lessons from Mr. Hart's own experience as a businessman and leader. At the front, there was a letter: "Dear Myra, this book is a gift to you. It holds not only knowledge but my hopes for your future. You have shown courage, honesty, and kindness, qualities that cannot be taught but are the foundation of success. I believe you will do great things. Remember, no matter where life takes you, you will always have a home here. With respect, Louis Hart." Myra's eyes filled with tears as she held the letter close to her heart. That afternoon, Mr. Hart found Myra in the garden. "Thank you for everything," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No, Myra. It is I who should thank you. You have changed me, and this house, more than you know." They stood together in the golden light, two people connected by respect and a quiet friendship. Weeks passed, and Myra's confidence blossomed. She was no longer just a maid, she was a leader, a trusted part of the household. She helped organize events, managed the staff, and even advised Mr. Hart on small decisions. One day, as Myra prepared tea in the kitchen, she heard footsteps behind her. It was Mrs. Thompson, the kind woman who had attended the celebration months before. "Myra," Mrs. Thompson said warmly, "you have come a long way. I am proud of you. Myra smiled. Thank you. It has not been easy, but I have learned so much. Mrs. Thompson nodded. You deserve every happiness. Myra looked out the window, thinking of her family far away. She missed them, but she knew this house was her second home now. As the sun set on a cool autumn evening, Myra sat by the fireplace, reading the book Mr. Hart had given her. She thought about her journey, the fear, the mistakes, the kindness, and the growth. She whispered softly, I am ready for tomorrow. The next morning, Mr. Hart called Myra to his office. He smiled as she entered. Myra, I have a question for you. She looked up, curious. I want to offer you a new position, he said. Assistant house manager. It comes with more responsibility and a chance to grow even more. Myra's heart raced with joy. I would be honored, sir, she said. Mr. Hart nodded. I know you will do well. From that day, Myra's life changed once more. She worked with confidence and grace, leading the staff with kindness and respect. She still remembered the accident with the bathrobe, but now, it was a small moment that had led to a great new path. She had learned that mistakes are part of life, but kindness and honesty open the door to new beginnings. One afternoon, as Myra walked through the garden, she saw a small child playing near the roses. She smiled and called out gently, "Be careful." The child looked up and ran to her, holding out a bright red flower. Myra knelt and accepted it, feeling the simple joy of connection. She looked around at the house, the place that had once felt so big and cold, now full of warmth and life. She whispered to herself, "This is home." And so, Myra's story was one of hope, courage, and new beginnings. From a small mistake to a shining future, she found respect, friendship, and a place where she truly belonged. Her journey showed that even the smallest moments can change a life forever. And with that promise, Myra faced tomorrow with a heart full of hope,